Part 2. We're on the bench, as you can see, and I've done some close-up looking. Turns out that my idea that this nut was graphite, maybe bone, was completely wrong. It says on the front of it, which probably won't focus very well, it says new bone with a number on it, 4234-00. New bone, I think, is code for man-made plastic nut with color that looks like graphite. Yeah, so that's gone, and I used the last bone nut I had in my stock and cut her down and made it fit to get the right action over the first fret. When I lowered the saddles, which I have lowered, which are hardly in the screen, I lowered the saddles. I got the action where I wanted it, and then as I checked the neck, there was buzzing, especially on the high E string, all the way up and down. I looked for relief in the neck. There was a slight amount. Tried to put a little bit more, but unfortunately, when I did just a general checkup before I straightened the neck, I found that there are uneven frets. So I'm at the point where I'm about to cut these strings off. They are D'Addarios. Unfortunately, they are rusty. I think they've been on the guitar a long time and probably all kinds of different environments. Took the tension off the neck. I've been trying to straighten it. I need my 2.5 magnification to check that out. Let's get that on there and see how she's doing. I need to be able to check it out with it absolutely straight so I don't make a mistake on leveling frets. And that's pretty damn close at the moment. It seems to be good everywhere except down here. It's just a little bit off above the wood. That could be an unevenness in the fretboard for all I know, but all the other ones are pretty flattened out. And okay, right up to the last three. So I'm going to take that as being straight. I'm going to go up and down. I noticed generally that some of them are high on this end and not in the middle or down here. So I'm just going to go through them all. I'm not going to bore you with all that again because we don't really need to see that one more time. And I found out that the first one is good on this one for a change. And see, look, I got a rock right here. A high one, not so bad, and then good right there as you're getting to the G string. And then it's high again down at this end. I don't think it's a matter of tapping because they're very well seated at this point on all the ends. So I think I'm just going to go for the leveling parts. Once I mark them up and I find out how many there actually are, I'll either do individual ones or I might try a little trick I did on the Ivy 300 EGR to just run my sandpaper across there and level them out as smooth as I can get them, because the neck on the Ivy now is super slidey and straight and beautiful. Really love playing that guitar. Learning to play the California Raisin song on it. I have found a new appreciation for a Les Paul style guitar when it plays that nice. I want to make this one the same. So I'm going to cut the strings off, get them out of the way. I'm going to work on this before I take the pickguard off and take a look inside to find out why the two tone controls don't seem to be doing anything, and see what's actually on the back side of this thing. Get some cutters, but all the same information. I used these strings to cut the bone nut. There it is. Ooh, fits in really tight. So this is how high let's go like that. This is how high it is, like that, when it came, and that's how high it needed to be in order to make it 18 thou and 16 thou on the treble side, 18 thou on the bass side, to get the right action over the nut. So this nut came this size, so this is like unadjusted, and inside the bottom, see the little holes in the plastic made device. This one is bone, and when you're sanding it, the dust, you can smell its bone. Just gonna stick that back there for now, and I'll get back to you when I've got something to report on the neck. Hold on. So this is the 411 on the frets. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 that I've been able to find by not being able to use those. So because they're, except for up here, they're fairly far apart, and most of this fret, for instance, is okay. It's just the tip, and mostly the tips on those, a little bits on this end as well. I'm just going to go after them with this crowning file and take some of the material off. I've taped everything up so I won't get any filings stuck in the magnets of this pickup, and we'll be ready to go just by working off the black marker as I've shown before, trying to get those ends just filed down a tiny bit. It's too bad because they looked so nice. Just needed, the buffing this way. But looks so nice and functioning so nice are two different things, and I want them both to come together. So I'm going to work on this, and we'll see what happens afterwards. I'm doing well working up the fretboard. Some of them just needed very, very light touches to get them going, and a couple of them I was able to tap, and it made it a little bit less work. But I want to reiterate something. If you're going to do this, you definitely need one of these checkers. And when you're working, and if you're filing, it's going to take the marker off fairly quickly. You got to keep your eye on where it is. Now, the trick with this is like cutting hair. You can always take more off, but you can't put it back. So, a few small light passes, a little bit at a time, just enough to get your marker to be taken off, and then recheck. And if it needs it again, put more marker, go back, and a few light passes. One of these files are fairly cheap as well. You can buy them on AliExpress, eBay, a bunch of places. I think it cost me about $7 for this file. And you know, it's curved on the inside. It was supposed to be two different sizes, but they look about the same on both sides to me. And it doesn't really matter because it takes the material off the top that I want, and then I can just stick it on the side at an angle and cut that angle off a little bit with the file as well while I'm going, so that when I go back to do my crowning with my sandpaper and my rubber block, it's not such a sharp edge in order to get it back. Oh, look at that. Came out bloody perfect just with that last pass. And then what I do is I take my marker, I mark along this fret because then I know where it is. So when I go back to do the crowning, I have marked all of the frets like that. So when I go back to do the crowning, I know exactly where to concentrate the effort. Now I've got one corner here. Let me check this now. Now that that's down and that works, I have to go back and check this side. Oh, and now that one's a little bit high. Now that one's a little bit high. It's not taped. And I wonder if it's this size tape. I'll get it with this one. I'm going to do the other side same time. It will get touched with the sandpaper a little bit, but it won't matter when I go after this one. That one too I'll have to do up, but okay, so it's there. Let me check it again. Yeah, so it's rocking all the way along. So it's that one. Let me try this. See what difference this may make. Is that tight? I never hit the frets directly. I can flatten them out. Even if you have the, you know, the plastic one on this end. I always use a little wooden block. Kind of evens out the shock. And doesn't put any kind of deformation in the top of these frets because they're actually kind of soft. They're not stainless steel, they're just standard nickel coppers. So I'll give it a little touch like that, and then I'll go back and check. It's still there. Right, so that made no effect. So now I'll have to mark it all the way along and do the same tricks. And remember to try to maintain the radius across the board. Go with the curvature. Now, if you venture into doing this, make sure that you bend to get the corners up on either side. Turn your wrist. The technique, make sure you get the curve going up over both sides. They are looking good. We are at 800, and I think I'm missing the 15. I'll have to grab some of that, and then I'll get to the 2000, and then I'll get to the polishing, as I've done before, which is long boring and hard work on the thumb and the arm. And here's another reiteration. Before going to the buffing cream, the steel wool, after the 2000, we'll change the tooling marks from longitudinally along the board to longitudinally along the fret. You can see down here that these are matte. You can see from here they start to be shiny going up. So this is where the steel wool has hit them. This is where I haven't gone yet. So this is an important step. This is the easiest way to get those tooling marks to change direction, because you don't want them this way. If you're trying to, bend a string, you're going to feel the grit. So you need to take that off. You need to make it slick and shiny. And you can stop at this stage if you like, or you can go to one extra like I do. But this is what my process is. And I just run that along there until I see it come up glossy. So I take it from a matte or a satin to a glossy level. And I am very, very happy with the look of those frets now. So now you can see the slick of the light all the way down the fretboard. And then when I started here, this was all matte. So now they're all glossy, and they're all ready for the buffing cream. This is the reason I go that extra level with my autosol cream, is because I get off and shine up the nickel content of these frets to like a black pearl level. And the combination of the very fine grit in this autosol and this shop towel, which is equivalent to about a 5,000 grit sandpaper. So between the two of them, it takes it even up one more level beyond the shininess of the steel wool, and that's why I do it. It's one level up, and it's definitely discernible visually. Probably not from that angle, but from this angle it is. These are like black glass, and these are still just like shiny chrome. But with a little dabble-do-ya of this stuff, just a tiny little bit. And you can use other things. People use fret erasers. They'll still leave tool marks. This is going to cause a little camera shake if I go too fast, or as fast as I normally do when I'm going across these frets. So I'm just going to go slow to minimize that camera shake. It's mounted to the table. Now when I start on this, even after the steel wool, it starts off and I can feel the grit, and by the time I think it's ready, I don't feel the grit anymore. The noise that it makes running this across there has diminished, and the feel has gone from rough to very, very, very smooth, and you end up with glassy looking frets. That's the point. So I know that this is a thrilling job to just sit and watch it, so I'm going to work on it, and I'll show you some of the next things I'll do. So here we go. Frets. That's what they're supposed to look like. Now take a look at the fingerboard here. I've cleaned the first 3 frets out with naphtha and have gotten some of this whitish stuff that's in the grain that I can actually feel really sitting on top of it. A little bit of stuff on a rag, otherwise known as lighter fluid. It evaporates very quickly. It doesn't leave any moisture in the wood, and later it'll be done with some lemon oil to infiltrate and rejuvenate. And so this is the process. A little bit on, put it in the frets. I like to do on the big ones about 3 at a time, and then run it along the edges to make sure you get it right in the grooves next to the fret. So I'll explain what I did with this nut here. In order to see how much I was taking off, this is actually the same height as the nut I started with, the bone nut. So I took a very fine pencil. I use a 0.3. What I did was I just went across the bottom of the nut like that to mark it, to say that that is where it started. And then that makes a very, very small line across the bottom of the nut. It's curved. You can see how much curve there is in it, and that's the radius of the neck at the first fret or at the nut, where it flattens out down here. So as you sand down on the bottom to get the overall height down more quickly, you can see that line becoming closer and closer to the bottom edge. And by the time I hit the tip where the line is above the bottom, and I hit there and I hit there, that's when I start going back in, putting it in to see what it's like. I loosen all the strings in the center. I keep the high E and the low E off to the sides, and I use them as my initial guide to find out how much more I have to sand down. So I'll put them on, I'll spin them up to pitch, I'll measure with my 18th thou feeler gauge on this side and that side initially, and then when I get this to 18th thou on this side, I start checking the other side with the 16th thou. And then what I'll do is, if I'm getting really close, I'll start going a little bit more from the center towards the edge, on the edge of my sanding block. I made a bigger one for myself. What I'll do is I'll go to the edge of the sanding block, on and off, this way, from the center to the end, just trying to take that down, and that'll create the actual slope on the bottom to make this sit a little bit lower, like that. And then, when you get it in there and it's pretty close, then I'll actually cut the top slots if I need to for each one of them as I tighten them up and check 16, 16, 16, 18, 18, 18 thou across there, and then I know I've got it with the radius across the top. And that's how I do it. You're welcome to use that methodology or any other methodology you know better. And that's that. Now, I didn't show anything about this whammy bar arm because I don't use them, but this one is a screw in, and it finds the threads fairly easy, I think. Is it? Within a ways. So if it stops right about there, and push on it. I think it's blocked in the back, it's not coming up. Which is the way I would do it anyway, but I still have to take off the back cover yet. I was able to get the strings out without having to take it off. But anyway, the whammy bar is there. Fits nice. If anybody likes to use that, that's how this one goes on. And it's right about where you'd want it if you were playing to grab it and touch it if you set it up that way. I'm going to put some oil on this and let that work its way in while I'm going to open up this pick guard, take a look under it, and see what's going on in there. It has come time, oop, I got a little white thing there. It has come time to think about opening up this pick guard and see what's going on under there.